The latest news out of the NFL draft affects the Eagles in a big way, with the repeat of 2018 possibly being the plan all along. Plus, why Philadelphia tried to trade for one quarterback this weekend while shopping another, and training camp could look very different at the NovaCare Complex this year. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. So apparently, a lot happened in the National Football League this past weekend that will dramatically affect the Philadelphia Eagles over the next 3 weeks. Because the NFL draft being just 17 days away means Howie Roseman and the entire Bird scouting department is obviously hard at work, prepping for a night that could change everything for the Birds heading into 2025. First though, we could be getting a closer look at the Eagles rookies and the rest of the squad this coming training camp than ever before, thanks to a new NFL rule passed this weekend surrounding HBO's Hard Knocks, which is, of course, the all-access TV program that follows one team around every single training camp. And in the past, Philadelphia virtually had zero chance of being on Hard Knocks because of their playoff rule, meaning if you had been to the playoffs at any point the past 2 seasons, you had a 0% chance of being selected for NFL Hard Knocks. But now, the new NFL rule states the only teams that cannot be on Hard Knocks in 2025 are the ones that either have a brand new head coach, were featured in the in-season edition last year, or run Hard Knocks any time in the past 8 seasons. This means now 20 teams, including of course the Philadelphia Eagles, can now be, quote, forced to participate. But the Eagles right now are one of 7 teams to never have been featured on Hard Knocks, meaning their chances are probably a lot greater. Plus, they did just win a Super Bowl, and the current iteration of the 2025 squad is loaded with superstars. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL selects Philadelphia. And it sounds like Devontae Smith on a recent podcast hit wouldn't be shocked either.
I think they just pick teams they feel got a lot of stuff going on, like a lot of drama and stuff, which I'm surprised they haven't mentioned the idea of this. Yeah. Because I'm not going to lie. In Philly, it's a movie, man. If they had Hard Knocks with us, man, they'd be like, man, this is a crazy team. So I'm glad they ain't picked us.
I don't know if they've ever done one on a team after winning a Super Bowl. They're probably going to watch this and be like, hey.
I hope we decline, man.
I want y'all's thoughts down below on the Eagles and Hard Knocks. Would you want them to be on Hard Knocks? Would you not want them to be there? Personally, I think it'd be fun as a consumer. Would the Eagles want it? Probably not, but give me your thoughts below. Also, this is the last call for Travis Futrell 8949 for the Super Bowl towel because you won, Travis, but I haven't heard from you, meaning if I do not hear from you by my next show sometime this coming week, then anyone who comments down below on this video is going to be eligible to re-enter, and I'll pick a new winner on my next show. Now, perhaps the most interesting story of the weekend that dramatically impacts the Eagles draft plans was the report from Jordan Schultz that the Eagles tried to trade for Patriots backup quarterback Joe Milton before the Cowboys eventually landed the rising prospect a couple of days ago, which of course confused me a lot at first. Like, why would the Eagles want another mobile backup quarterback after just trading for Dorian Thompson-Robinson earlier this season? Well, maybe it's because teams, according to the Philadelphia Times, have expressed interest in trading for Tanner McKee, who after his electric end-of-the-season run showed a lot of promise in a league that's always looking for the next overlooked superstar. Now, personally, the validity of this report is somewhat questionable. Philly Times is not Adam Schefter or, anyone on NFL Network, but still, if teams are calling for Tanner McKee, maybe Philadelphia was trying to move him for a higher draft pick and then replace him with Joe Milton. Also, I want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Groons. Now, what are Groons? Well, they're a complete and comprehensive formula packed into just 8 gummies a day that combine your greens, your multivitamins, and your prebiotics into one at a fraction of the price. And Groons has 6 times the gut health ingredients compared to the leading greens powders. It also contains biotin and niacinamide for thicker hair, nails, and overall skin health. Plus, it has mushrooms for brain function and vitamin C, which reduces stress-inducing free radicals. And easily my favorite part is 0 artificial colors, 0 official flavors, and it's obviously a gummy, and so it tastes absolutely fantastic. It's like eating a fruit snack. This right here is way better than taking like 50 different pills and putting them in your hand and going one by one drinking water. Just pop it in your mouth and it tastes unbelievable. These things are really good. Groons is also more bioavailable, meaning the ability of Groons to be absorbed and used by the body is greater, which will help you achieve your targeted nutrient levels. That's because they're in gummy form, which is more bioavailable than a tablet. And right now, viewers of my show can get 52% off your first order, which is crazy. I had to double check that. It is 52%. Link down below in the description box, scan the QR code somewhere over here, and try Groons today. I'm wondering if the Eagles are trying to find a quarterback more in the mold of Jalen Hurts to be the official backup. It's nothing against Tanner McKee. I personally think he can run the Eagles offense to a very high level and basically proved as much. But the DTR trade a couple of weeks ago and now this reported attempt at Milton tells me they wanted Jalen Hurts' clone in case of a serious injury. Now, of course, since Milton went to Dallas, any chance of a McKee trade anytime soon might have died, but it is something to keep an eye on as the draft gets closer and teams get more desperate. Remember, this is a historically bad quarterback class, and that has a massive impact on teams panicking on draft night to get their QB1 or maybe 2. Again, I love Tanner McKee. I wouldn't trade him, but the fact they wanted to trade for Joe Milton and might be taking calls on McKee is at least worth mentioning. And I think this does lead perfectly into the next big draft story of the weekend, as it was announced that Alabama quarterback Jordan Milroe will attend night 1 of the NFL draft. Okay, but why do I care if Jalen Milroe is going to attend night 1 of the NFL draft? Well, Jalen Milroe is not supposed to be a first-round pick in the next couple of weeks. There are 0 mock drafts right now that have Milroe going round 1. So either he wants to go just for the experience and, of course, knows he's not going to get picked, or he knows something that the rest of us don't. If Milroe sneaks in round 1, that could bring the total number of quarterbacks taken in the first round from a projected 2 up to a possible 4. Ole Miss Jackson Dart also rocketing up draft boards as we speak. And naturally, if both Milroe and Dart, and obviously Shedeur and Cam Ward, go in round 1, 4 quarterbacks, that dramatically helps Philadelphia because that shifts everybody else, non-quarterback related, further down in the draft. And that leads me to believe Philadelphia might be planning a repeat of their post-2017 Super Bowl draft back in April of 2018, when Philadelphia waited all night in round 1 just to trade out of the 32nd overall pick and let the Ravens sneak back in and take none other than Lamar Jackson, who, if you remember, back at the time was talked about in a very similar sense to Jalen Milroe, mobile quarterback who can't throw and is probably not going to be an NFL starter. Makes you think. And this whole idea of Philadelphia trading out of number 32 overall, possibly to let a team come up and get a quarterback, took another big hit this weekend as, again, it was a busy weekend when Philadelphia announced a couple of more pre-draft top 30 visits, one of which was Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos, who I like. He's impressive, he's fast. I think he could easily compete for a starting job with Keely Ringo, but is not a first-round talent. Then they also met with Aggie edge rusher Nick Scorton, who dipped in production post-transfer to College Station this past year and, once again, is clearly a day 2 pick. Do you see a common theme here? Philadelphia, they're meeting with a ton of day 2 and day 3 draft prospects right now, and the ones they brought to Philadelphia. In fact, only one of the Eagles' top 30 draft visits so far, including this weekend's group, actually appear on ESPN's Mel Kiper's first-round mock draft. That one was Kentucky's corner, Maxwell Hairston, which, again, is a sign. Now, technically, Philadelphia still has about 10 to 12, depending on how many you count here, top 30 visits left. They have plenty of time to go ahead and meet with first-round talent, but the fact that so far, 15, 16 top 30 visits in, they met with one first-rounder, kind of makes me think that they're not really expecting to pick at 32 and could go ahead and move back and get somebody else. Again, they have not met with Malachi Starks or Nick Emanwari or Walter Nolan. All of these are projected draft picks for Philadelphia that would be first-rounders Philly so far hasn't met with. And going back to that aforementioned 2018 draft where Philadelphia traded out of round 1, it was a very solid deal for the Birds. They got back 2 seconds and a 4th rounder and ended up with a draft class that included Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox, Josh Sweat, Matt Pryor, and Jordan Mailata. Almost all of those were basically a hit, except for Pryor, but still really, really good. A duplication of the Birds' 2018 draft this year in 2025 would instantly put to bed any narrative of a weakened Eagles with everyone leaving following free agency. And while nothing we've covered here is guaranteed because the NFL draft is an absolute cluster, I'll say it loud and proud one more time, in Howie I trust. Now, speaking of Dallas Goedert, and his whole chances of staying in Philadelphia took an interesting turn this past weekend as the Cardinals inked their tight end Trey McBride to a massive 4-year, $76 million extension, making him now the highest paid tight end in NFL history. Of course, McBride is right now a lot younger and has been a lot more productive than Goedert the past 2 seasons, but he also plays on a team with 1/10 the talent on the outside. Despite his current age, I think Dallas Goedert still has a very strong argument to make that he deserves to be one of the top 5 highest paid tight ends in the league going forward, which could make dealing him to a team that doesn't have a lot of money a lot more difficult. Philadelphia and the Goedert situation, it's one to keep an eye on that I haven't quite figured out heading into the draft. Now, I think my favorite clip from this weekend has to be Vic Fangio doing his Super Bowl championship rounds at what appears to be a small, intimate meet and greet with Philadelphia fans, where the Birds' legendary defensive coordinator gave us an inside look at how Philadelphia turned Zach Baun from a special teams nobody to one of the best inside linebackers in football.
As I watched him and give Howie credit, he said, hey, I kind of like this guy, take a look at him. And Howie had a vision for him as being an edge player for us and being a good special teams player. And I watched him, and just a couple times during their games, he would, if they got the tight end off and motioned him across, he would back off and look like an inside linebacker, a stacked linebacker. And it only happened about 5 or 6 times. And the way he was moving when he got back there, it's just, and I can't explain it. It's just, you've watched 40 years of NFL film and coaching linebackers. I said, man, I think this guy could be an inside linebacker if he's smart enough, which we already knew he was. And I told Howie, went in after I watched him, I said, yeah, I like him, but I think he's an inside linebacker, not an outside linebacker. And he really wasn't interested in hearing that when we were trying to sign him. He wanted to stay on the edge. Everybody likes to rush the passer to get sacks. They're victims of the sack job. And so about midway through OTAs last year, he comes up to me, when am I going to get some practice on the outside? I said, we'll get there eventually. Don't worry about it. You need to learn this other stuff first. And then he never asked again after that. And you know, it really is a good story, good guy.
Great story.
You know, went from making hardly anything for 4 years to actually 5 years. We got a big deal.
Obviously, Baun deserves a ton of credit for what he actually turned into, all the work that he actually put in, but it first took Vic Fangio seeing his full potential as an inside linebacker to get the train moving, which does make me very curious to see which of the new free agents on defense Vic Fangio can help blossom into a starter for the Birds in 2025. Now, of course, when it comes to the NFL draft, everything can change. Philadelphia can not meet with any first rounders the first 15, 16, 20 top 30 visits, and then meet with 10 straight, and then this video becomes irrelevant, and then there's a lot more videos down the line to go ahead and update you. And so it's kind of my job right now. There is obviously Eagle news going on. There's a ton going on behind the scenes, but as new news comes in, I'm going to update my opinions and my takes. And so be sure to go ahead and subscribe so we're up to date on everything happening with the Eagles, as we are 17 days away from the NFL draft, which is crazy. Now, as I mentioned, waiting to hear back from the Super Bowl towel winner. If I don't hear back from them by either Tuesday or Wednesday, my next video, I will randomly draw somebody down in the comment section who dropped a like and is a subscriber to go ahead and win it. Hopefully that person will respond to me, and then I can ship the towel out. So let me know down below. Get your entry in the comment section. I'm Thomas Mott on a Monday. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.